we are going to talk about before the storm, what to do before the storm.
Before the storm, there's a lot you should do. So if there was a weather report that there was a storm coming to Accra, sorry, I need to put this phone on silent so it doesn't disrupt us. If there was a weather forecast that there's a storm coming to Accra, we're all going to automatically do some things, aren't we? Yes. You would prepare yourself. You would prepare your home. You would, if you're like Belinda, you'd probably be looking for a blanket and a bed to hide under, but it is still part of preparing. You would take action. Anytime you hear a weather report, and if you were going to go out, you may change your plans and be like, I'm not going to go out until this is over. So there are things we do. And it's the same way with the storms of life, because they will come. So if you actually know the kind of storm coming, you can name it like they do. Hurricane Ida and Hurricane Petra or tropical storm, whatever. You can actually name it. Because when you identify it, then it's easy for you to also conquer it. So you can name it. You can, then you have to mentally start preparing yourself. So what do you do to protect yourself? What do you do to protect your loved ones? What do you do to protect your environment? When I was in a certain job and I could see moves to remove me, I started preparing my family. I prepared everybody around me. I moved out of government accommodation a year before because I was trying to manage the disruptive effects of the storm. And normally we know where the weak spots are. So you can also start, there's physical preparation. Then there's also getting into a place of prayer to deal with your fears and start moving yourself from a place of fear to a place of faith. And if you are struggling in prayer, something that helps is prayers of affirmations and prayers of declarations, where you're just declaring God's word over you. So like I said earlier, the good thing about God's storm warnings is that they also come with the outcome. So if you are a child of God, of whatever faith, you know the outcome. So you know, for instance, that in Jeremiah 29:11, he says that the plans he has for you are plans of good and not of evil. You know from, is it Genesis chapter 42, that even when people mean evil for you, God will create a good outcome. You know from, is it Romans, that all things would work together for good for those who are called by God and are walking in his purpose. So you need to arm yourself, sorry, I had to check. You need to arm yourself with all that, because when you know what the outcome is, focusing on the outcome helps you prepare better for the storm. Okay. So you also remember past storms. There are other storms that God has taken you through. So that mindset of previous victories helps you get a mindset of faith to face the one that is coming. And just a general acceptance that storms are a part of life makes you strong. I mean, and then the other thing is you start looking around and asking yourself, when this storm comes, who are those who are going to be my companions? Who are you in the house with? Even the disciples, when they were with Jesus in the boat and a storm came, they forgot who they were with. They forgot the capacity of the person, and that's why they were afraid. When they woke him up and said, why are you not panicking? We're drowning. And he stilled the storm. You see, immediately they were not in a place of fear anymore. So you need to look around and identify who your companions are. And one of the good things you can do in preparing for a storm is identifying who is in that boat with you. Who are those who are going to face the storm with you? Of course, if you are in a storm and you're on a boat and you know that the captain is very experienced and has survived 30 years of sailing and being, facing storms, it minimizes your fear. Your fear is diminished.
So,
But if you are with a rookie captain, you would be even more afraid.
That's
so start selecting companions who you know can empower you for the storm that is coming, which really speaks to the kind of people we surround ourselves with.
Yes, yeah. But and Charlotte, the image I'm getting is of someone who is very intentional, someone who is very strategic. But there are times when someone has just sent a question that speaks to the times where storms hit you unawares. You didn't do anything, you didn't see the scheming, you didn't hear the rumors, nothing prepared you for it, and it just hits you. What do you do in a situation like that?
We'll get into when you're in the storm.
Okay.
When you find yourself in the storm, what do you do? But
so
for now,
happen to find yourself in it. But we're at this
we're
point,
talking about the before, preparing. And then the other thing is also to study about storms. Before the storm comes, study about storms.
Okay.
Learn about storms. Storms is the same water that falls with everyday rain. What makes a storm different is the wind that comes with that rain. And when you hear the noise of that wind, that noise alone is scary. That is where the fear comes from. The fear is caused by the wind and the speed of the wind, not by the water itself. It is the force that brings that water that makes you scary. And that's why you see when Jesus was in the boat and they woke him up, what did he do? He rebuked the wind. He didn't speak to the water, he spoke to the wind. That's why you need to learn about storms. If there's a storm that you know, and we all have storms that we are mentally afraid of, why don't you learn about it and start asking, what did God do for other people? What did other people do? See, every storm that comes and kills, you hear it's killed 100 people, 1 million people are without power. There's always people who survive those storms. If a storm comes and destroys 50 houses, there'll be the one house that was not destroyed by the storm. Why wasn't that house destroyed? Why did some people survive the storm?
Okay,
so there must be a strategy to surviving it.
Yeah, and Charlotte, let's bring this to, let's say, career storms.
Okay.
Would one of the ways of learning about storms be researching about the trends or the direction of your industry? How
future-proofing your career.
Exactly.
Future-proof your career.
Future-proof your career. And I listened to one of the you did an Instagram live session on 25 things you wish you knew before 25. And I think one of the things you mentioned was future-proofing your career. Can you just speak to that? Yes, you did. Can you briefly speak to that? Because I think for a lot of working women, one of the things you'll be concerned about, what will happen to my career in the future? What do I do? I mean, we were in Ghana where we wake up in the morning and your company just vanished, literally.
It's not even, I don't even think it's about what will happen to my career in the future, even when you are in a job. Yes. And that's what I talked about. It's like the storm. You can't be in a location that is prone to storms and not follow weather forecasts.
Which is what the job market, the job market is the place storms happen.
Yes, so I'm coming to that. So I'm a lawyer. You have to ask, what are the trends in my industry? The fact that you were called to the bar 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that is not the end of it. You must constantly monitor your environment. One of the things I used to do actively, and I still try and do it, was to learn something new every year. On my to-do list, there was always something new I had to learn every year. There was one year I paid a ton of money to go and do a course on public-private partnerships. I did that course in 2009. It is paying off this year.
Wow. 2009?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if Belinda is here. She followed me. I went to Virginia. I did that course that year. Then I went into public service. I never used that. I kept up with the industry I'm using it now. I'm currently working on a transaction that requires that skill and that qualification. So you must constantly scan the environment around your industry and your profession and ask, where is this industry going? So if you hear that Ghana has signed onto the African Continental Free Trade Act, and it is going to affect movement of goods and services, of course it's going to affect your profession. I think Zoom has disrupted the legal industry, and some lawyers are not even aware of it. The day of, I think that the geographical barriers are going to break down, because basically now a lawyer can sit in Algeria or Egypt and offer legal services to a company in Ghana, attend Zoom meetings with them, and never even step into Ghana. So if I were government, that is going to affect your taxation base. Eventually, you need to be scanning that. How does the African Continental Free Trade Act affect my business? I produce clothes. It means that other manufacturers of clothes can enter into the Ghanaian markets without taxes. How does that affect my business? I'm a banker. I'm watching the whole movement to banking on mobile phones using accounts owned by telephone companies, Momo. You would be very not smart to think that that's not going to disrupt the banking industry at some level. So what skills should you be adding on? When technology is introduced into banking, you should know that it's going to have a disruptive effect, and you may have to increase your skills or own IT skills to still stay relevant in that industry. You must constantly scan the environment and future-proof your profession and future-proof your career.
Okay.
So that's part of preparing for a storm.
For a storm.
And you need to build skills. We're getting to the point where paper qualifications do not matter as much as skills. So I meet a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to go to this university to do an MBA, to do what? And I'm like, the world is moving towards skills. Are you building up skills? Skills that enable you to live in Ghana and provide services in the US or in Asia and still earn money. It's not about paper qualifications anymore, it's about skills. So you must constantly monitor those things. You have to watch the weather forecast and monitor it for your industry.
So watch the weather forecast and monitor it for your industry. Absolutely important. And when you say that you did a course in 2009 and it's paying off 12 years later, that's, I mean, amazing.
No, and the one transaction is actually more than the school fees I paid.
Wow. That's something to look forward to. So I guess, ladies, it's advised that we need to look very forward, not in fear, being intentional, being strategic, but looking ahead of us and saying, because you don't want to wake up one day and your job has become irrelevant, or what you've invested 15 years into working has become irrelevant because
no, that's when they tell you I worked 20 good years. I'm like, it maybe 20. I don't know if it was good.
Yeah. Okay, Charlotte, thank you.